you for inviting us to your speech here today. And whenever you're ready to begin, we will listen.
For Brooks Brown, April 20th, 1999 was just like any other day. However, he noticed that two of his friends, Eric and Dylan, weren't in class, which was odd because Eric was missing a huge philosophy test. Also, they usually invited their friends when they skipped. In fact, just yesterday, Brooks had skipped with them to eat at McDonald's. But he tried to shrug it off and went outside for a cigarette. As he debated on going to his next class, a car suddenly pulled up. It was Eric. He began to question him about missing the exam, but Eric just laughed and said, "It doesn't matter anymore," while pulling a gym bag out of his back seat. He then turned to Brooks and said, "I like you now. Get out of here. Go home." What followed would be one of the most tragic events in U.S. history. Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold would kill 12 students and one teacher at Columbine High School before killing themselves. In his book, No Easy Answers, Brooks Brown, along with journalist Rob Merritt, describes his experiences at Columbine, as well as his relationships with Eric and Dylan. Now, before I read this book, I decided to research Columbine, because I had seen some surveillance footage on the internet, and I wanted to know what else was out there. I couldn't believe how much information was available, so I just engulfed myself in my research, trying to figure out who these two young men were. Now, it's not that I condone what they did, but I can tell you that Eric and Dylan were not monsters, as the media would have you believe. To truly understand them, we must learn what their life at Columbine was like, realize that there were deeper motives for the attack, and clear up any misconceptions we may already have, because there's so much more to Columbine than many of us realize. We must first understand what life at Columbine High School was like. Bullying was a huge problem, and Eric and Dylan were often victims of vicious attacks from their peers. Brooks remembers standing outside with them one day as a group of football players drove by, yelled something, and then threw a glass bottle, which shattered near Dylan's feet. Brooks was angry, but they didn't seem to care. They just said, "Don't worry about it, man. It happens all the time." After hearing of shootings in other parts of the country, students at Columbine would joke that it would happen at their school next. Brooks would later go on to say, "Eric and Dylan are the ones responsible for the tragedy. However, Columbine is responsible for creating Eric and Dylan." In his May 9, 1999 article entitled "The Monster That Is High School," Deha admits, "Public schools claim to support all students, but in reality, choose to invest their priorities in activities associated with popular cliques." Columbine was a school ruled by elitist cliques, and as Lorraine Adams described in the June 12, 1999 edition of the Washington Post, the sports trophies were showcased in the front hall, the artwork down a back corridor. Sports pages in the yearbook were in color, other clubs in black and white. All of this angered and oppressed Eric and Dylan. Now, according to my survey, 87% of you noticed cliquish behavior in your schools, while over half reported bullying to be a problem. So if this is the case, why don't more students act out as Eric and Dylan did? Although bullying played a huge role in the cause of this massacre, there were deeper motives for the attack. Eric and Dylan both kept journals, parts of which can be found on ColumbineSite.com. These journals, as well as the videotapes they both made, are a most important source in getting to know both them and their motives. For example, on April 21st, 1998, Eric wrote on the subject of humanity, suggesting, "Drop all your beliefs and views and ideas that have been burned into your head and try to think about why you're here. But I bet most of you can't even think that deep. You just drop your capabilities and hop onto the boat and head down the stream of life with all the others of your type. Well, I won't be a part of it. I have thought too much, realized too much, found out too much, and I'm too self-aware to just stop what I'm doing and go back to society." While Dylan Klebold wrote in late 1997, "I swear I'm like an outcast and everyone is conspiring against me." Another entry read, "I'm stuck in humanity. Maybe going NBK with Eric's the way to break free." NBK was their nickname for the attack, which stood for Natural Born Killers. Brooks Brown has read these journals and notes. Unlike Eric's writings, which were full of anger and threats, Dylan's diary paints a picture of a shy, lonely, and self-loathing kid who wrote love letters and doubted that anyone would ever understand him. Brooks also believes that Eric was most likely the one who formulated the attack, but that he and Dylan had grown so close, it was easy for him to convince his friend. In a video they made just 30 minutes before the attack, Dylan says, "Hey Mom, gotta go. It's about half an hour before a little judgment day. I just wanted to apologize for any crap this might instigate. Just know I'm going to a better place. I didn't like life too much, and I know I'll be happy wherever I go. So I'm gone. Goodbye." So you see, Eric and Dylan strike me as the type of people who question everything, which usually I see as a great quality in people. However, they thought they were unsatisfied with humanity as a whole, which was exacerbated by their school environment, and which ultimately led to the massacre. However, we as a society, and the media especially, were unwilling to accept this, which led to many misconceptions that some of us still have. In the months following the attack, the media searched for a scapegoat in which to blame Eric and Dylan's rage, the most memorable being Marilyn Manson. Manson retaliated by writing an article for Rolling Stone entitled "Columbine, Whose Fault Is It?" in which he points out that Eric and Dylan actually preferred bands such as KMFDM and Rammstein to his music. However, since Middle America is unfamiliar with these artists, they sought out someone thought to be similar. He also explained why he chose not to defend himself at first, replying, "I didn't want to contribute to these fame-seeking journalists and opportunists looking to point their self-righteous fingers." He went on to conclude, "When it comes down to who's responsible for the murders in Littleton, Colorado, throw a rock and you'll hit someone who's guilty." Another popular scapegoat was found in violent video games, as Eric Harris was an avid fan of the computer game Doom, and even coded levels for Doom 2. He assumed that if he carried out his attack, people would place blame on this. And on July 29, 1998, he wrote in his journal, "It's my fault, not my parents, not my brothers, not my friends, not my favorite bands, not computer games, not the media. It is mine." It doesn't get much clearer than that. After the media frenzy of who or what to blame, Americans became paranoid. This could happen at any school. Gun control laws were in the spotlight again, and many schools implemented stricter security policies. But is there a real solution? As long as mankind exists, there will always be people who question their existence, as well as the existence of humanity as a whole. With Eric and Dylan, it just happened that all the variables were there for them to do this, but it could have been easily preventable. On November 12, 1998, Eric wrote, "Everyone is always making fun of me because of how I look, how weak I am. Well, I will get you all back. Ultimate revenge here. You people could have shown more respect, treated me better, asked for my guidance and knowledge more." On the 17th, he went on to say, "If people would give me more compliments, all of this might still be avoidable." A member of the YouTube community, Wormhole Shadow, has been researching the Columbine massacre for years and concludes that our society is so caught up in frivolous things that nobody heard these boys, no matter how loudly they cried out. Before today, 80% of you didn't even know the names of Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. Hopefully now you will see that they were real people, and not some faceless, anonymous killers, as Brooks Brown would put it. You should also know what life at Columbine was like, realize that there were deeper motives for the attack, and dismiss any false impressions left by the media. We can't hide behind metal detectors, gun control laws, and mesh backpacks and act like Columbine never happened. We need to remember this tragedy and learn from it. We need to reevaluate how we treat those around us. And we need to remember Columbine and its victims, all of its victims.